think it's actually a little bit off frame, but I fill one of these, I like to fill the sink with water to dip the glass in to clean it while I'm grinding. So I put my hook on over there, which I probably will walk into 15 or 20 times before I decide that it was a bad spot to put the hook. We have this hose here, which is for this grinder. And then we have this hose here. Now I'm just going to do a quick setup on the grinder to show how that works. Actually, you know what I want to do? I want to make sure that this thing is going to drain properly. Just looking at it, it's not going to want to drain properly. Huh? Actually, it is. Good. I was worried that it wasn't going to want to do that. Could use a little bit of a... Where's the water coming out? It's coming out somewhere it's not supposed to. Interesting. So this corner wants to be up a little higher. Water always finds its own level. Okay, that'll work just fine. So when I bought the grinder, it came with these. Which actually work awesome. I have no complaints. But these discs go on this backing plate with this little circular thing. I went over that in my other video, so we're not going to cover that one too awfully much. I purchased upgraded wheels. So this is a 100 grit, which we're going to put on here. And these come with the backing plates pre-attached, bonded at the factory, which is kind of cool. And it really saves you a lot of time. In the future, I'm going to order these just direct from HighTech Diamond. They just work perfectly. There's no reason not to buy these. So now I read of course I only ever read bad reviews. One of the bad reviews I read said that it wobbled uncontrollably. Well, I covered this in one of the other videos, but I thought it was worth reiterating. This is not a $5,000 24-inch lapping wheel. This is a $599 all-in-one plastic 8-inch lapping wheel. And if you expect it to run like a Swiss watch or a centrifuge for a nuclear reactor, you're expecting too much. And one of the things I learned a long time ago about rotational forces and balance, just from balancing tires, is there's a couple things. So it works a lot better when you plug it in. I don't know, I can't reiterate enough how dumb people are. Oops, I gotta put some water in that. Another thing that likes to kill those pond pumps is running them dry. Oops. As I just bitched about people being stupid. So when you put the wheel on, so this, it's not wobbling too bad, but if you turn it up, it might start to wobble. And just like a car with a wheel that's out of balance, you can drive through a balance issue, or you can literally physically take the tire off, move it just a little bit, and stick it back on. And that's kind of what you have to do with these things. If you expect anything more out of this, well, be prepared to be disappointed. Because I have the most peculiar feeling that you're the type of person that bitches about everything that you've ever come across and just need a reason to complain. So you can see here it is wobbling. If you speed it up, the wobble goes away. Now, there's a couple ways that you can address the wobble. Um, you can remount the wheel. You can take the wheel off and clock it a little bit, which I'm going to do just as demonstration purpose, but the truth of the matter is I'm not concerned about the wobble. So you can just unscrew it a little. I'm holding the base here and then just turn the wheel a little. Another thing is you want to check to make sure that the wheel itself doesn't have crap underneath of it. Let's see. Let's see if it's... All right, I'll just take that off underneath that. Actually, I put this on because it really accentuates the wobble. You see the wobble better with the guard on, and it shows up really good. Yeah, it's actually, I made it worse, I think. No, that's not too bad. Eventually it will start to wobble. Yeah. That's actually not bad. So another thing I did was, because this thing was originally set up to have a cup on it, I took and sanded this off, okay, to just give me a little bit more room. It didn't need to be there, but I did need some place to clip the water, which should be on. I will say that I think it's my fault, but the pump does not like to prime. And that's not necessarily the pump's fault. There it goes. The way I have the pump mounted in the bucket, where the air gets into it, so you just turn it up a little bit, and the water, obviously the water, air comes out, water starts flowing, and then sometimes I leave that thing on or off, so that kind of screws it up too. Now I'm going to turn the water down. Now, generally, I just leave the hose in the bucket with just a trickle of water coming out of the hose, because I don't have any water going back into the bucket. The bucket is completely separate from the return water. The slurry water, the return water, just goes off into Never Never Land, to be, part of environmental disaster that I'm creating in my backyard. So let's put an apron on, and let's cut a cup. Okay, here we are. I don't know, like half an hour later. I did have to do a little figuring, and I'm not totally sure if this is going to work. I'm running it without the guard on it, which is I would absolutely positively never do under normal circumstances, but because I'm shooting a video, and seeing my screw up would be epic for everyone involved. So let's cut some glass with a tile saw with a blade that's way too rough to cut glass with. Now I'm going to stand over here to the side, because this thing is flinging an amount of spray that is just ridiculous. So what I have here is a failed night light. You can't really see it on video, but when you shine the light through it, I screwed it up. I didn't do it right, so it's worthless as a night light. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the bottom off of it, then I'm going to polish the bottom, I'm just going to cut the bottom off, grind it, and then just put it on the $5 table, because I hate to. This took me well over an hour to do. The other thing is I am standing in a big puddle of water here, using electrical devices. Keep that in mind. So if I fall over and start twitching, you know why. So that's that. So there we go. Turn that off. I don't want to walk in front of that. I don't have to. So now I just cut the bottom off of that instead of grinding the bottom off. I could have ground that all the way down, but that's just nuts. Oh, I forgot my towel. Oh well. Yeah, I got another one of these here somewhere. Oh, I took it inside. So here's another one. I'm actually not going to cut this one. I'm going to grind that one. So this is a cup that I made yesterday that I showed in the video earlier. You'll notice that it's all taped up. And in this particular one, the bottom's not taped because the bottom is a kind of a wonky angle. And I don't like it. So I'm actually going to grind the bottom of this one. We'll see how well that turns out. Now I have two different lines on this. I have the cut line, and then I have the grind line, and then I've got the tape line. I tape these up for a couple reasons. In my previous video, you saw one of my ornaments, or you saw a shot glass go flying off into the stratosphere. Well, I don't want to do that again. And when you do that, there's a good possibility that this glass is going to break. Now, I also mentioned that I'm a tape diva. The tape that you see on these pieces is not the green frog tape that you buy at Home Depot. This is 3M 233, which is designed specifically for the automotive industry, for the automotive repair industry, and it sticks when wet. It sticks when wet, for a while at least. So let's cut this one. So there we go, the end's cut off, and I'll rinse that cheese out of there, and then we're going to do these. Now these don't have a cut line because I'm not going to bother. I'm only just going to cut this off right about there. Not having this guard on is proving to be a little bit of an issue, so I'm actually going to leave the guard on. It's actually proven to be a real issue. Yeah, I don't want to be running this without the guard. It was fine for one, but I'm not going to do two that way. Knock my water off. Yep. Again, this is prototype. Not clamping the guard on proved to be an issue. So by cutting that big lump off the end of it, I saved myself probably half an hour of grinding. And that actually worked perfectly. As perfectly as it can work for what I'm doing right this second. I think I'm gonna have to work on my guard a little bit, but you know, that's why it's made out of tin foil. All right, so adjust my water there. I'm actually gonna unplug the saw and plug this grinder in because I'm going to be using this grinder very shortly. Yeah, there we go. Let's do it this way so we know which one is which. Alright. This one should work. Awesome. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grind. I'm actually going to grind this. This is a bottle stopper that I made, but it's got this nipple on it's got this punt snap off on the bottom of it, which is kind of problematic. So I'm just going to whack it on the grinder real quick. So that's good enough for the 100. I gotta go get a towel. Just a note, anything that you use with glass, that's it. It's dead. It's dead to the world after that. So these microfiber towels that I have I haven't actually marked them, but I know which ones are which. These will never see the light of being used on anything except glass ever again. It's just not good for them. Okay. I just throw the towel in here to keep the stuff from clinking and rattling around. All right. And scratching. That's another issue. All right, so let's grind the bottom of this thing flat. Now I turn the speed up on the wheel. Almost. I'm actually going to put a little bevel on this. I find that putting a bevel on it and then grinding down to the bevel keeps it from grabbing. The other thing I don't have is my safety glasses. Thing's crooked as hell. But again, this is just nothing but a futz around project. We're gonna take some more of that off. I may actually take this one all the way up to a polish. I'm not sure yet. Like I said, this is purely a trash piece. I got this hunk of stainless here that I use to check for flatness. and straighten this. Oh, that thing's crooked as hell. Again, I'm not really worried about it. But interestingly enough, it's crooked where I kind of thought it was crooked. Now, purely experimental piece. In many ways, this piece was experimental to begin with. Alright, so that's going to be like that. That's going to live that way. Now, we've got this other experimental piece here, which is going to, actually, this one's going to get tossed into the garden, but I got to cut this end off of it. We'll see. We'll see what happens with this one too. And you never know, they may all get thrown on the $5 bin and see who buys them. Close enough. Okay, now let's get into the nitty-gritty here. I'm gonna go get my headphones. Now, take those off for a second. It puts voices in my head. Let's get back to the box in the backyard. Okay, now, so what I need to do here is there's a pretty harsh lip on the inside of this thing. Now, obviously I'm not down to my cut line yet, but the way the cup is made, I'm trying to get the maximum amount of volume out of these as I possibly can, so I'm actually cutting them a little short. I need to work on that in my manufacturing. I need to work on like making it so when I cut them and grind them, they're nice and flat. So what it's doing is it's going like this. Now that's what I use this grinder for. Now, because I don't have any of these valves anymore, I don't know what happened to them, but I had them. So I just take this and stick it on here, and should. Oh, there it goes. So now you see there's water squirting up here. Now that's got to actually has to be down. That's good enough. So you just need to have water on the inside. So I'm going to turn this one on. And just go like this with it. And what that does is it takes the inside lip and straightens it out. Okay, so the brass piece here is acting like a bushing. So I can't over grind it. And it's only taken off maybe a 1/16 or an 1/8 of an inch on the inside. But what it does is it takes the curve of the glass and then cuts it off. It actually saves me an incredible amount of time doing that. Oh, that's a new noise. No big deal. So we're going to do it again. So basically what I'm doing is I'm buying myself a little bit of extra cut. It also makes it nice when you pour it, it doesn't run down the back of the glass. It's kind of a, I don't want to call it a signature, but that would be an overstatement. But it's, I just like the way I just like the way it works. My partner says it's a waste of time. I don't think it's a waste of time. I think it makes them look a little nicer. And that just pops off and we'll just go back to grinding. So I'm going to call this one done with the 100 grit right now and the inner grinding. I might whack it on the inner grinder. Well, I'm going to whack it on the inner grinder one more time, but not right now. So I'm going to shut the camera off. I'm going to do the rest of the pieces that I have. And then when I switch to 180, then we'll go over the whole process again. So sorry, this is going to be a long video, but it is what it is. Okay, here we are back after lunch, and it's like really crazy hot here. But I ground these glasses down. I kind of skipped it because, you know, you've seen me grind glasses once, you've seen me grind them 100 times, and I didn't fling these against the wall so you didn't miss anything. But what I did do was I bumbled this piece, and I put some really bad scratches in it. So this is a junk piece. And there's like two ways I could fix this. One is to, one way to fix it is to fire polish it. And another way to fix it is to facet it. Now, I've got scratches on this side that are pretty bad, and then I've got a scratch here that's pretty bad. I know if I throw this thing back in the kiln, I can flame polish it, or I can just grind the piss out of it and polish it that way. I think I might actually flame polish it. I was going to try to facet it, but honestly I just don't feel like it. But I am going to polish the bottom up a little bit more. Now, I covered this before and I'll do it again just because. This is 180 grit. Actually, I put a little shelf down here for these. I don't think soaking them in water is all that great of an idea. So this is my 360 grade sanding disc, and this has the arbor in it. So you put this on. Now this is the loose one, right? So you put that on, and then this bushing here actually has a little notch in it for discs that have a different size center. These fit on here just perfect, as perfect it can be. If you flip it over, it's really bad. So put the nut back on. The other discs don't require the arbor, but these do. So put that back on. It's really hot out here in the sun today, so let's get with the business. Find my gloves. Putting on wet gloves is so gross. It's like putting on a wet bathing suit. But I am not confident enough to do this without gloves. You also notice I started wearing earplugs as opposed to my headphones because those earmuffs are just ridiculous. Alright, so yes, I just stuck that in my mouth. I'd rather have glass in my tongue than glass in my ear. Alright. Now this is the bottle stopper. Now the edge on that's a little sharp, so I'm just going to give it a put a decent little chamfer on there. It's not perfect. It doesn't need to be. That piece is going to get sandblasted anyway. Now this is the other one that's a dud. This is really hard. Because it doesn't take much to make the bottom not flat, and then it wobbles. Yeah, see, it's wobbly. Here. You see how it's wobbly? Weebles wobble. You can barely feel the lump in it. Well, that's crooked as all hell. But it's flat-ish. Still crooked as all hell. That's okay. I think I want to live with that. Like I said, that's a throwaway, so I don't really care. Now these are not, so. So there's some bumps on the inside of this. I'm just going to leave them. Hand blown. Now, I'm just going to take this grinder and I'm going to put a little dress on the inside. And what that does is it just takes that little burr out of there. It's easier to sand out, or it's easier to flame polish out with that burr gone. That's it. That's all I got to do with it. Yeah, maybe a little bit more. I don't like that. All right. Shut that off. Take these damn earplugs out. I changed my mind. I'm not going to polish these. It's not worth it. It's just a complete waste of time. And not only is it a complete waste of time, it's working right now, so why bother with it? I'll just leave it brown the way it is. Oh. Grab a hose here. Okay, so one of the things that I like to do, is I like to thoroughly rinse the glasses before I even bother doing anything with them. So we're going to kind of let that water run away. Get the tape off of them. Now, yeah, you absolutely have to rinse the glasses a lot. You have to get every single speck of powdered glass off of them. You have to get every single speck of powdered glass off of them. The best way to do that is to just flush the crap out of them with water. One of the things right now too, because they're kind of roughly finished, the lips are really susceptible to chipping right now because they're kind of rough. If I finished these with like 600 or 800, they wouldn't be so bad, but these are finished at 360. And if you run your finger along the inside, you can feel like a little bit of chipping. It won't cut you, but it definitely is unpleasant to the touch. So what I'm going to do is rinse these. Obviously, I'm rinsing them. And then I'll take them inside and flame polishing them. Flame polish them. You've already seen the flame polishing process. So that's not a big deal. Let's see here. Hopefully my camera shade's working out. No, that GoPro's a piece of junk. I mean, it does what it's supposed to do, I guess. But... All right. Yeah, we drink out of the hose here, kids. But that's like a perfect drinking glass. I like it. Good for a Captain Coke. Now, if I can get somebody to pay me $30 for it, I'll be even happier. The problem with cups and glasses is they really want to be set. I like it. All right, well, we'll leave that other stuff in there. Actually, no, it's going to come too. So we'll wash this stuff off. This one's just going to get tossed in the garden. That other one might get tossed in the garden too. But this stopper has to be sandblasted. This one's getting tossed in the garden.